All right, we're back. It's week 8, lesson 8, part 1, and I want to talk about your final project today. So we'll talk about it so you have all the details, because I think it's important for us to give you that stuff ahead of time. For people who've on my in my my game programming 1 with Unity, it's very similar, if not almost exact, to that. But the reason for that is because there's some really cool parallels you can make between the two, right? And that's the idea, getting it to be built in pure or in JavaScript that's cross-platform as opposed to Unity with the wrapper, right? And there's stuff in Unity, things are a little bit extrapolated, a little bit abstracted, where you have a little bit more control here from a JavaScript and web perspective. So that's the reason why we do it. So let's talk about this final project thing anyway. And what is it? It's up on Dropbox right now. I put it there. There are going to be. I want you to put together 2 parts for it. Okay. So in past iterations of this course, I had it all in one part, and I found out that people wouldn't do their project. They just waited to the last minute to get it done, and then they were in deep trouble after that, right? So we're going to break it a little bit differently. So the first part of this project is due the same week as that, December 4th, which is week 12, right? That's when it's going to be due. And what I want you to do is put together your game concept, right, with your partner, if you choose to have one. And it's the first draft of your external game document is what I'm looking for here, with your wireframes and all the planning that you have involved as well. Think about it as your game design document that you're going to be putting together. 1 working level is what I want by that day. So that's your minimum viable product for for game day, which is going to be December 4th. Okay, so I want to take a look at it by then. Obviously, I'm hoping to see it way ahead of time, right? And I can see what other kind of things we can talk about your main concept for your game, and I'll give you some guidelines below. Part 2, the finished version, is due December 18th. That's the last day of classes here in this semester on the Friday at midnight. Okay, so that's when it's due. But one part is 10%, the other part is 20%. For a total of 30% of your final grade. There is no final exam in this course, right? Which is a good thing for you guys, which means that you don't have to worry about exams for it, but you do have to worry about getting your project done. So your project is going to be a kind of an extensive piece. There's one other piece that I did not include in this. There's another 10% outside of this that I want you to do in a presentation, which I will detail after this. Okay. So again, what are you building? Either alone or as a team of 2, right? You will create an original 2D arcade game. That's what you're limited to here. If I was going to be doing in next semester, luckily I have advanced graphics. I'm doing advanced graphics, and we're going to be doing WebGL, right, with 3JS, another JavaScript framework, which, by the way, I'm going to use our lovely TypeScript with, right? So to even accelerate it even more, so to make it even easier. And it's very similar. If you think about doing things with Blender, and everything else. 3JS is a really good solution for us to take care of that. And we'll be doing something very similar, but we'll do 3D stuff instead of 2D stuff. So this is almost like the whole semester we've been focusing here on 2D, and next semester I'll be doing both 2D and 3D, just in 2 different courses. Okay, so the game can be a scrolling game, a platform game, tower defense, 3/4 down adventure, or other classic arcade game, whatever kind of a game you want to make. Puzzle games, again, will not be accepted. Don't try and put together a puzzle game. That's not acceptable. The game, and the reason for that is just because it takes too long. It's too complex. You write yourself into a hole. People have a lot of problem with that. And they start going and they never finish it. The game must have a menu screen, an instruction screen, at least 3 game level screens, and a game over screen. Okay. In past iterations, I allowed easy, medium, hard. I'm not going to allow it this time, because easy, medium, hard turned into a nightmare for me. So we're not going to do that. A scoring system must also be included, and you must use your own graphic and sound assets. Again, you'd acquire them like you normally would acquire these assets. You may choose a web API such as CreateJS to create your interface, but what if you wanted to use Phaser instead? Because you don't want to use, CreateJS. We haven't talked about Phaser too much, but it is a web API, and I would accept it, right? I do think you have more control with CreateJS, but from a rapid prototyping perspective, you might want to try another framework. Also, if you wanted to use Box2D to create some kind of 2D platformer type game, and we're going to talk about Box2D, yeah?
What if you want to use the web version of libgdns?
You're really pushing it, eh?
It's Java. Doesn't
No. You really pushed me, eh? He's pushed me all semester so far, which is good. I like it. I'm got to push you back into the web technologies here because that's what this course is all about, right? That's why it's called web game programming, right? Okay. But I love your enthusiasm. Anyways, note, you may use output from an assignment from either team member as a starter template. So an example, let's say you're really happy with your side scroller, you love it, you know, and you want to use that as a jump off point. That's totally cool. That's okay. You can do it like that. Obviously, you can't do it with, you know, our slot machine because slot machine doesn't really qualify as an arcade game with different levels, right? So that's what I'm talking about here. Your assignment number 3, this one that you're going to be working on now. If you wanted to use that as a jump off point for it, you certainly could. You can make your own. Important, please keep in mind that the final presentation, which is used in place of your final exam, is worth 10% of your final mark and is dependent upon this project completely working and being completed on time, right? So you have another little piece that's not in here. I've kept it separate, which is a final presentation you're going to be doing so I can see your game, what it looks like on that day. That'll be on the Friday that we get together, okay? All right, let's take a look at the mark breakdown. So again, from a menu screen perspective, you're gonna have to put one together. I want a play option, an instructions option, and an exit option, right? So play, instructions, or exit. The instruction screen will display rules and instructions on how to win the game. Gameplay screens, you'll need to make at least 3 of them, right? Level 1, level 2, level 3, okay? That kind of thing. Each of them have to be different. You can't just have a different background, okay? Functionality, it has to be a little bit different. There has to be some reason why, from a story perspective, you're going from level 1 to level 2. There's got to be a different goal for each of your levels, right? Some kind of, you know, when you move to second level, as an example, there's got to be a different goal for that level. Like, what are you doing differently? What are you achieving? It's not just defeating the, you know, getting through the level in a very similar way. And you can't just like say, well, I've got different aliens. I got 1 alien for like level 1, and I got 2 aliens for level 2, and 3 aliens for level 3. That doesn't qualify. All right. Again, I want to kind of justify what I'm saying here and say that and validate it and say, look, if you have a question after this about what qualifies as a game that'll work for your final, please come to me and talk to me. Don't leave it to the last minute to kind of come up with a game concept. You know, so then I can tell you yes or no, and you know, just like Steven's asking, hey, can I use you know, the web version of libgdx? You know, this is the kind of stuff you have to ask early so that we're not caught. Now, right now we're sitting at week 8. I'm actually supposed to give you this final project week 10, so I'm giving you to like a couple weeks early just so you can plan a little better, because I know there's other projects like the one that I have in Game Programming 1, which is exactly like this, right? So I want you to space it out so you don't kill yourself, right? This is a 40-hour project as well, not just like the one it was for Game Programming 1. It's a 40-hour project. This is not something that you should try and do on your own if you can avoid it. If you have a partner, it'll make your time a lot easier, smoother to run. And the reason for that is because you can share the load, right, between the 2 people. But some people like to work alone, and that's perfectly fine. And we'll talk about that. You need also a game over screen. The game over screen is going to give you your play again option or your exit to menu option. Those are the 2 buttons that will appear on the game over screen. Okay. Player control of an avatar, a vehicle, or character. The main input may be a combination of mouse and keyboard clicks. The player's avatar may have weapons or other devices that can be used to defeat the computer-controlled enemies. It doesn't have to be weapons. You don't have to kill them. You can disable them. There's different ways of doing it. If you want to make a violent game, it's totally possible. You don't have to make it violent, and I wholly encourage that, because making a violent game is actually, or some kind of killing game where you have a weapon and stuff, is a lot easier and takes less thinking than actually making a game that you have to puzzle your way around. It's not necessarily a puzzle game, but another way to, you know, kind of defeat your enemies in different ways. Like, for example, a stealth game where you stealth by the enemies, as opposed to for them, if they see you, you lose. You know, that kind of thing, right? Hint, hint, kind of the games that have already been done before, right? So you have to have this kind of thing. Computer control or AI, simple AI. When I say AI, it's really simple AI of the enemies. The enemies should be abundant enough, but not too crazy to beat. Don't add enemies forever, like ad nauseum, until it's impossible to play the game. That's really boring. And you know, you only want to play that game once and never again, right? So don't make that kind of game. That doesn't make any sense. Random opportunities to generate points for the player aside from killing enemies. So, you know, let's say you kill the enemies, okay, that's one option, but some other points, maybe some pickups, something that you're going to gain points on, right? Maybe it's a time thing. It could be you get points depending on how long you live, right? That kind of thing. Some way of getting points. Random opportunities to generate points. A scoring system to ensure the player's score is accurately calculated and displayed somewhere in the gameplay screen. Player must have a life counter, a health status, same kind of stuff we've seen in the on the male pilot game. Sound effects for the collisions and enemies, collecting points, shooting attacks, explosions, whatever. They all have to be included. And of course, a game soundtrack, which I already said before. I think I'm gonna have to farm out Jay to create all the game soundtracks for the classes. But anyways, I joke. All right, so that's really it in a nutshell from your requirements. So you still have quite a bit of leeway of what you want to create. Internal documentation as normal. External documentation pretty much as normal with a couple of extra options. Nothing crazy here, but this external document, remember, you need this in order for you to complete and get marked on part 1, which is it's going to be again 10% of your final grade. The part 1, which is your game design piece, your proposal, if you will. Think about this as your pitch. You're going to pitch this, and you're going to show me your designs and everything else, and then from there we can go on. Even though this is due, this part, the first part, I'm just going to go back here, where it says, hey, part 1 is due week 12, Friday, December the 4th at midnight. I'm letting you know in advance. What I want to do is see your game concept here in class as part of the requirement. Okay, so bring it in class. If you don't have it ready, it's not going to show well, right? It's because even though it's due midnight, it's a good opportunity for me to give you some feedback, so you can hone it up and do a little bit of tweaking and tuning, so that way by midnight you have a pretty good concept, right? And then it also tells me that you're on your way of getting things done. If you don't have a working level and all that kind of stuff by week 12, something's wrong. You haven't planned properly, and you're in trouble. Right? I'll tell you right now, because that means I'm giving you to week 8, and then by week 12, which is like 4 weeks from now, right? You don't have anything going on. Something's not right. You have a problem, right? So that's really why this game design document, this external document that you're going to create, is important, because it's not just for company logo and table of contents and version history and all that stuff. It's a first draft. You may not have everything here, but I want you to have an interface sketch and your screen descriptions and your game world, describe your game world, and all these descriptions. You should have an understanding of what your game is going to be about. Okay. Optional game features. A final boss monster could be one, right? Power-ups for the player's avatar, extra speed, some kind of lightning shield, whatever. That can add to his inventory. Cheat codes, right? Because this is something you can program that in JavaScript, no problem. Mini game in a section of the main arcade game. Example of disarm a bomb, pick a lock. Those kind of things. Challenging to this one of the most challenging ones to make, because it's almost like making another game, right? Empower the player to gain an NPC. Make it possible for the player to save or load his game, right? So that's kind of some ideas I can think of. There's so many others, right? I continue. I mean, please, when you submit your game, your projects, make sure you submit somewhere in your external document that, hey, by the way, here are the extra features. Again, even the ones you've already done, and the one that you're doing now from Yale Pilot, there's always opportunities for extra points for me. And so make sure you outline what those are. Say, hey, by the way, I added these 2 extra features or 3 extra features, and this is where they are. And then here's the breakdown of points in terms of our structure. So that's really it in a nutshell for your final project. Again, 2 parts, and if up in Dropbox, you'll see that those 2 parts are separated. 10% for the first piece, 20% for the second piece. A little bit more organized than I've done it before. Any questions around this piece? You okay, Stephen? You excited about doing this? You're going to come up with something decent. I know Jay and everyone else is going to come up with something decent too. I'm excited to see it. Please try and find a partner for this one. All right. One piece to know: even though I didn't mention anything about GitHub, the reason why it's not there, it's actually one thing I didn't say is it's required for this thing to be live. Okay? It's a web game, right? So I want to see this game somewhere, whether it's on GitHub, Heroku, GitHub Pages, or if you're going to put it on Azure or something else, it has to be live. Okay, that's number one. Second thing is, if you're working with a partner, if you choose to work with a partner, which is probably the right thing to do, I want to see on game day, on you're on the December 4th, I want to see your GitHub repositories. So I want to see what people are doing. Are you collaborating together? We'll talk about how to collaborate on GitHub as well before then, so I can show you how to do that, which is not so difficult. You can create an organization for yourself, for your game, and then from there you can have collaborators, team members that can help you. I've been asked in the past, can I have more than 2 people working on my game? And I think that's probably not a good thing at this point. The JavaScript project is pretty small. Even though I'm saying it's worth 40 hours, it's 40 hours for your JavaScript project. You and a partner can do it together. That means 20 hours each. That's pretty good. It's a pretty chunk of time, right? And then on top of that, you have a little presentation, which I'm going to detail here, that's going to take you some more time to put together, right? So not everyone has all the time to do this. And if you figure out about 1 hour per percent, that being 30%, 30 hours, roughly plus 10% more for your presentation, everything together is about 40 hours, my guess. Okay, so let's go and talk about your presentation, which I've also put up on Dropbox. So there's this little piece here. So this is another assignment, if you will, but this is really the one that's taking place of your final exam, if you will, right? So this, it's your final project add-on. It's due week 14. You'll be performing this during the last day of classes. So week 14, that's the Friday, December the 18th. I want to see your final presentation. Worst case, we can't get through it. You're sick. Something goes on. I still want you to put together a screencast as a backup. And also for me, when I look at your work again, if I want to see your demo, I always want to go back and when I mark you, I want to sit there and look through your stuff. So working with a partner or on your own, if you're going to present on your own, like because you don't have you don't have a partner, you're working on your own, you will present your final game project, and your presentation should include details contained in your external document, such as an overview of your game, your planning process, lessons learned, and future possibilities. Like what would you do if you were to take it a different direction, or if you were going to continue to work on this project, right? You must be prepared to present live and produce a screencast, all right? So both. You can produce a screencast on YouTube, Vimeo, Twitch, whatever you decide to put it on, right? Use a slide deck during your presentation to keep yourself organized, right? And your presentation should be no longer than 5 minutes. So like a 5-minute, presentation of the final product, right? We're also going to include after that a couple minutes of Q&A and some feedback from me saying, well, I kind of like this, maybe you could have done this differently. I think there's still some things you can fix up for tonight because it's going to be due that night, right? This presentation, your final project, right? So again, I can give you a little bit of tweaks or whatever, that kind of thing. And when I say slide deck, it can be anything. It can be PowerPoint, it can be Keynote, it can be some Google product, whatever you want. And so that way you can you can keep yourself organized. So just don't come up here and start talking and then that's your presentation. Make sure you're organized, and you're going to practice it anyway because you're going to do a screencast, right? So do your screencast first before you come in on the Friday. That's my recommendation. And then you're ready to go. You've already rehearsed what you're going to do. You've timed yourself so it's within 5 minutes, and then do your demo and get it done. Why am I making it so strict? Well, this goes back to, remember they asked that question, like, do you get anything else out of this course than just pure programming? Yeah, you do. You get to write and you get to present, right? Your writing is your game document, and your presentation skills is something you can take away, and it's a business skill that's transferable. Once you know how to present properly and you keep yourself organized, it's something that you can use in outside of college. Okay, so your presentation should include a title page with your team logo and some kind of screenshot of your game in the background, right? You will include an overview slide, and then you will use this slide as a backdrop to summarize what your game's about. So my game is blah, blah, blah. It should be like, give me the 30 seconds about your game. Tell me what your game's about in a very, very brief slide, right? You will include a planning slide to describe your original plan for the game. So show me I want to see almost like planned versus actual. So here's my plan for the game. Okay, well, this really happened, right? Because this is what happens sometimes. Well, I planned it for it to be like this, and this is my game concept, and I kind of created my first level, and I was going to plan to do this for my second and third level, but it ended up going this way because I had this really cool idea I wanted to put in at the last minute, right? Or something like that. Or maybe things don't go so well with your partner and you couldn't produce everything you wanted to do. Okay, you will include an instruction slide. How do I play your game? So show me, if I was going to play your game, how do you play it? Show me the game, show me your instructions. You will demonstrate your game's functionality. Each game scene should be highlighted. In other words, the start menu and the instructions and the gameplay level and game over scenes, all those things. So I should be able to look at all of them, and you should prepare almost like a demo version of your game to play that day, right? So don't let me look at your game in its awesomeness, like that's going to take 10,000 points to get to level 2 and another 20,000 points to get to level 3, and it can play for hours. I want to see that I can get to level 2 in a very quick way. I want to see the highlights of level 1, get me into level 2, take me into level 3 to see your boss monster, and I want to see it pretty quick. And then tell us everything. Like, guys, again, this is the shortened version. This is the prototype to show you what my game levels are going to look like, right? And then finally produce your final, final game over scenes to show me what happens when you die, right? Or when the game is over, when you win. You will include a lessons learned slide. And this slide deals with the challenges. Like, you know what? My partner and I had challenges working together. You know, we couldn't coordinate stuff. Meeting was a real challenge. I had other essays and assignments or whatever I'm doing right now that kept me from doing this. I have some personal problems. Whatever. Things that stopped you from being completely effective in this thing, and things that you learned. Like, you know, I really hated JavaScript, but I learned TypeScript, and now I love it. You know, this kind of stuff I want to hear from Stephen, right? Because he's going to be, you know, the JavaScript professional after this, right? And then you will include a future possibility slide. And I don't want to hear this, you know, because it just says that if I had more time, what would I do with my ideas? Don't say, well, if I had more time, I would finish my game, right? That's bad. I want you to produce your minimum viable product. These 3 levels would be a minimum viable product. Don't give me the extras without your MVP. And what I mean by that is, don't give me the some kind of boss monster and a mini game and everything else. But you know what? You only have 1 level. That doesn't cut it for me, right? Why? That's like the customer asking for A, B, and C. And I've had this conversation with a bunch of people this week, so forgive me if I've already told you this. You know, the customer's requirements are A, B, and C. And then if you do bonus D and E, everyone's happy. But you know what you do? You produce A and B. You don't produce C, and you produce E and F, right? Because, you know, you think that's really cool. The customer is going to like what you did with E and F because it's extra. But your C requirement is unmet, which means his project, you haven't produced a minimum viable product, and so you failed, right? So that's not what we want you to do. I don't want to train you like that. I want you to do this. I want you to finish what you've got and then add on, right? So get your stuff done and then, you know, work towards adding additional features. That's the way you should work. So this one is due 10% of, it's worth 10% of your final mark. So that's a total of 40. 10 for your concept, 20 for your final product, 10% for your presentations. That's 40% of your final mark, right? That's a pretty hefty amount of stuff going on over the next little while. Plus another, 10 or 15% for Mail Pilot, right? So this second half is going to be pretty heavy with what you need to do. Questions around this stuff? Screencasts, again, there's different software you can use to do that. Again, you're just recording your game. You're recording yourself. I don't want to see your face on the screencast. I don't need to see that. I want to hear your voice, and I want to see your PowerPoint slides, and I want to see a demo of your game. That's what I want to see in the screencast. The exact same kind of demo that you would do here in class as prep. So you're going to prep yourself with the screencast, and then you're going to do your final presentation here, and you're going to wow everybody. Everyone's going to look at it and go, wow, that was a really cool idea you had, right? All right, and that's it for me. I'm going to stop recording this one, and then I'm going to get right into building Mail Pilot for us together, okay?